Trifecta Fitness. We're proud to be Clarksville's new Get Fit headquarters. Trifecta Fitness is a state-of-the-art spin and strength training studio. Our spin studio is truly one of a kind in this area, complete with 20 state-of-the-art live fitness bikes and an incredible sound system. Our strength training is done in small groups of 6 or fewer, and all of our strength and spin classes are scalable for every level of experience. Come see us in the heart of Clarksville, just behind MAPCO at the corner of Old Trenton Road and Wilma Rudolph Boulevard. Call us for more info at 931-542-6265 or download our Trifecta Fitness app for a full list of upcoming classes.
Specializing in metal parts, machining, and fabrication since 1960, Girding Enterprises has excelled in the machining process. A truly American company, Girding Enterprises has gone from one-man shop in a basement to a world-class machine shop with over 20 employees. We strive to uphold the highest level of quality while constantly improving our efficiency level in order to offer the most affordable prices to our customers. Visit us online at girdingent.com or give us a call at 636-274-9802.
All right. Welcome back. All right. Welcome back. MisFitNation. We are a show founded by a veteran and hosted by 2 veterans and a military spouse. Our mission is to get people to tell their story to the world. If you're an author, share your tips with MisFitNation. If you're a musician or actor, our audience needs to know how they too can get into the business. Coaches, we love our coaches. Come on and share some of your tips with the MisFitNation to help them become better versions of themselves. If you're a corporate leader or an entrepreneur, come on and share how you did it and how hard you have fought for success. If you're a veteran, first responder, or Gold Star family, we would love to have you come on and just share your story with the MisFitNation. We always have time for you. If you're feeling down, alone, or starting to see the darkness, stop. Think about those who are around you. You are not alone. You will be missed. If you feel like your problems will be a burden to those in your inner circle or are embarrassed, dial 988. If you are a veteran, take option 1. We need you to keep pushing forward. Don't make a permanent solution to a temporary problem. If you're a new listener, welcome to the MisFitNation. Be sure to subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast apps and also on our YouTube channel at @_MisFitNation. Subscribe and click the bell to keep you up to date with our latest episodes and all of our news. You can also find us on Heroes Media Group and About Face Radio. Now, let's get to the show. All right. Welcome back to this Thursday night live coming from the borderlands in El Paso, Texas. The MisFitNation is here, traveling the world and meeting new people. And tonight we have a great guest. She is the CEO of Transform Your Performance. She drives bold, value-driven, and heart-centered leadership of self and others. Her eclectic experience on 5 continents started in Germany and includes leadership positions at the Boston Consulting Group, as well as ownership of businesses in Argentina, Brazil, and the U.S. This experience shaped her into a multicultural, transformational leadership coach, international inspirational speaker, and author of Speak Up, Stand Out, and Shine. So without further ado, let's welcome Regina Huber to the MisFitNation. Welcome, Regina.
Hi, Rich. Hi, everybody watching. I am so delighted to be on with you here tonight. And yes, let's get this going.
Awesome. And like I told you in the pre-show, this is a happy accident. You didn't call me on it, and I didn't realize it till earlier that I really did not pick the right person this morning, but I'm glad I did because I got someone that was motivated and really broadcast this across many streams today. So thank you. And thanks to the audience will be happy that you're here as well.
Yeah, sometimes we want to be flexible because everything happens for a reason, I always say.
It does, exactly. So, Regina, I just gave a little blurb about you there, about your travels, your journey in life. If you could tell us a little bit more from as far back as you want to go to how we got here, let the MisFitNation learn more about you.
Yes, of course. I grew up on a farm in a small village in Germany, and not too far from the Austrian border. And ever since I left my home at 19 and I moved to Munich, I have actually, most of the time, I've lived in big cities after. And I've lived and worked on several continents, as you already said, Rich, like Spain. I've done a lot of work in Portugal. I've lived in Argentina, Brazil twice. Here in the U.S., in California, New York City, and also here in Florida, where I'm right now. And I have had the delightful pleasure to spend 8 or 9 months now in several African countries as well. As you said, I worked for a global consulting firm for about 16 years in several different locations, including, and I also had several roles, including leadership roles. And I founded and managed my own businesses in Argentina, Brazil, and now in the US. In a nutshell, I think we can say I have had a very adventurous life, which at times has been a bit nomadic as well. And it's been a lot of fun to travel, to meet new people, new cultures, to open my horizon and my mind with it, actually.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's always great to travel and meet new people and see how other people live and taste their cultural, especially the food side. I love tasting foods around the world and seeing how they do things. And maybe it's something that'll help you in your life where when you go home and say, hey, they did it this way. I'm going to try that for my family at my house and maybe spread it out to my community. And I think that's awesome.
Exactly. And I also believe that I shouldn't even only say I believe, I know that we learn a lot through studying different languages. We learn to think differently, and this has helped me tremendously in understanding other people's ways of thinking, in putting myself in their skin, so to speak, which is really, really important in coaching.
It definitely is. And as a coach, you have to have that, I guess, emphatic ear to hear what they're saying and then let it register within and then kind of regurgitate what they said and come up with a solution, or maybe both of you come up with a solution to transform them and their performance to a better way.
Absolutely. What I have found is that I have always organically and naturally attracted a lot of very different clients. This has been a fun experience for me as well. And, we coach others, but of course, at the same time, we learn so much through those interactions with others. And the clients that allow me to go very deep with the coaching experience teach me a lot at the same time, but they also get the most out of it.
Definitely, that's a great thing, a great way to put it there. And the way you're able to attract them is probably because of your smile and your openness when they come up. So I think that helps out a lot.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I definitely have had a reputation also a little bit wherever I've traveled to be participating in people's lives. It's something that I really love doing. I'm not a good organized trip traveler. I usually travel by myself. I travel to countries, stay at maybe an Airbnb. And I love to connect with people. And when I was, for example, teaching a 4 or 5 day workshop back then in Rwanda to a young group of environmentally spirited people, that's when they were really surprised when I just went to lunch with them at the Mensa of their university, and they said nobody had ever done that with them, and they were just surprised. And to me, it was very natural. So that was. It's always nice to hear, though, because sometimes we don't value our own capabilities and our own talents and our own strengths enough. It's not so much about, we have to be validated by others, but it's just nice when others recognize some things that we should be valuing in ourselves as well.
Definitely. And you may not think it was a big deal for you to go eat with them. And like they said, no one has ever done that before, but that's something you thought was just the right thing to do.
Right.
And that made their day, probably made their whole journey through school as well.
Yeah, and we went out dancing. We had fun. I love African dancing and music. I've also taken classes. I do a lot of ndombolo dancing, which comes from Congo. And at the time, it was more Afrobeat when we went out dancing. So we always try to have fun. I always try to have fun wherever I go and soak up as much of the culture I can. I might not eat all the foods, I have to say that, right?
I
But
understand.
I have tried some exotic stuff like crocodile and whatnot. I wasn't crazy about crocodile, I have to say this.
I'm sure it tastes like chicken. That's what they say whenever it's something strange. Oh, it just tastes like chicken. So yeah.
Exactly, that's what they say. Right? That's what they say.
But then
But
in
it's
your
just that
mind,
our taste buds are probably not used to it.
right. And in your mind, you're just seeing that crocodile in the water and you're like, I don't want to eat that guy.
Exactly. And then you know what? I mean, maybe it ate a chicken before. That's why it tastes.
That's why it tastes like chicken.
Talking about crocodiles, I actually went to the Everglades yesterday for the very first time. And I saw lots of alligators there. Yeah.
So you got to see them up and close and personal before they wind up on a menu, I guess.
Exactly.
So you've been successfully you starting businesses around the world throughout your travels, Argentina, Brazil, and now in the United States. What was your focus for your current business and your motivation to start it?
Yeah, so I have a lot of reasons. It's even a little hard to know where to start, right? But somehow all of these reasons are related to my very eclectic and adventurous experience. When I moved to New York City about, I think it was at the end of 2011 when I moved there. And then in 2012, I started to seriously think about, okay, what's next? And I decided to figure out how all of this very eclectic experience could fit together into a meaningful service and an offering that could make a difference for others. And that could at the same time also be fun for me as well. Right. And this was how Transform Your Performance was born. And this is a coaching, training, and speaking business where I help my clients reach their next career goal and upgrade their leadership skills so they can better lead self and others. And I also always encourage my clients and help them to live a fulfilled life and experience more inner peace at the same time. So we work on reducing stress, while we also build all the positive elements of it. Of course, this wasn't immediately as it started. You know, we all go through a process, and I think a lot of us coaches, we go through a clarity finding process of who is actually our best or our ideal client. I started out working with performing artists and with quite a few entrepreneurs. And nowadays, the people I work most with are actually leaders in corporate and in consulting firms as well, you know, professional services. Most of them have been in financial services just because I spent most of my time in this business in New York City.
Nice. And living in New York City, you had to be have a tough mindset and have some resilience to live up there, especially 2011ish, and when things were still wide open in New York City at that time, so and crowded and a little crazy in New York City. So, how did you adapt to New York City after going around the world and then landing there?
Yeah, so just before New York City, I'd actually lived in Rio de Janeiro, and before that in Buenos Aires. So these are really big cities.
Yes.
I had also spent probably 9 months total in Sao Paulo before, you know, and I'd traveled for work to Mexico City and other similar places. So I was quite familiar with the big city life. Each of these cities has different challenges. Each of them has different beauties. So it's always the two sides of the coin. You know, wherever you live or travel, you always see some things that you like and other things that you don't like that much. And of course, it wasn't much different in my case. So, for example, when I moved to New York City, I I knew that this was one city that I always wanted to explore. Although I also have to say at the same time, while I lived in Rio de Janeiro, I never actually planned to move anywhere else. I thought this would be maybe my final station, right? But of course, I should have known better because I said the same when I lived in Buenos Aires. So it happened a few times already. And I had visited New York a few times before, even while I lived in San Francisco, but also while I was in Rio de Janeiro still. And I just thought it was a city that somehow attracted me. I was almost going to say energetically attracted me, because it's hard to explain sometimes. And I had a lot of curiosity for it. It certainly is a very interesting city in terms of the cultural offerings it has. I love African culture right now. I have experienced a lot of Latin American culture, and in New York also Caribbean quite a bit. So it was very exciting to me to explore this new city. Also, at the same time, though, it was a challenge because I had just come back from speaking Portuguese and Spanish for 7 years. Now, I had no network in New York City. I had to build a new network. And basically, starting over from scratch was not the easiest thing to do. I had also, and this is important to say, I had just gone through an extremely painful experience with a business partner in Rio de Janeiro, which cost me my business. It cost me a lot of money. It cost me a lot of time. It gave me a lot of lessons, but it also crushed my self-esteem and my confidence at the time, meaning it wasn't the easiest thing for me to just go out and build a new network in a new location, But I did it, and I came up with some tools that I later put into my book, Speak Up, Stand Out, and Shine, that helped me at the time. And one of the reasons I could do that was also because I had studied holistic healing modalities, which gave me the knowledge and gave me the some techniques that I used for those situations to get mentally, physically, and energetically prepared for networking, for speaking. I started speaking even at my own events. I just organized some own events, so I could get some practice and meet people through those events. Even it was challenging for sure, but it was also a very growth-rich time. And I believe that whenever we take our challenges as opportunities to grow, that's when we get something out of them, and when there's really no waste of time in the end.
Wow, I mean, that's an awesome journey, and how you go through things, how you've gone through all this travel, and you've picked all the biggest cities, it seems like, to kind of blend into and find your way there. Sao Paulo, Buenos Aires, San Francisco, New York. You don't seem to pick the smaller places. So it seems like you thrive with the hustle and bustle too. And that kind of helps you, I think, as well. And having that mindset to always push yourself forward helps a lot. But you have to have something other than mindset to actually be successful. And how do people become more successful? Not alone. Not with mindset alone. What else do they need?
Well, you mentioned grit and resilience before, right? It's really important to remember that we can always get up again when we fall. As I think as business owners, that is something that we learn anyway, but I think it applies to anybody, right? And I learned a lot of resilience through dealing with corrupt authorities, for example. Like in Buenos Aires, I owned a bed and breakfast, and I had an investor's visa. And with that investor's visa, I was supposed to open my business within a year. I found a house. I had it built out. I opened my business within a year. I requested a license right at the beginning, but I never got the license within the year. And this is how it actually works for everybody. I found out later, at least at the time it was like this. So what happened is that inspectors came knocking on my door and they wanted their palms oiled. Right? So they hoped to get a bribe, but I refused to pay them off. And I really stayed true to myself there. And eventually I had even to defend myself against a fine because they got too frustrated with me and they fined me. And instead of paying that fine, I took this case to court. And believe it or not, I won a court case against the city of Buenos Aires.
Wow.
Now get my expenses back, but at least I didn't pay the fine. And most importantly, I stood up against corruption and I stayed in integrity with my values. And I think this is something, that has come with me to this day. I have had similar experiences elsewhere, like living in Rio de Janeiro. I also, it also, presented me with some major surprises. Some were awesome, but not all were good, right? So you could say I explored this beautiful city's good and bad sides quite a bit. I had this experience with this business partner, as I said, but also after that, I wanted to keep my residency permit. I wanted to renew it. I had submitted all the paperwork, which was a stack as thick as one of those old, yellow phone books. Remember those?
Yes.
But gradually they lost all my documentation. And I was even already in New York City because I said, okay, maybe I can make it work that I split my time between the two locations, which would have been my biggest dream. But then, again, because I didn't pass money under the table, they eventually lost my entire documentation, one piece after the other. And I just refused to give in to this, to this corruption. It's just not who I am. And I prefer to stay in integrity with myself and others, right? But of course, also, I want to make it very clear, okay? As we all know, and I know you know this, Rich, corruption isn't limited to specific locations, countries, right? In fact, we have some of the worst corruption here in our, in our so-called Western countries and in Europe and the US. And it's just like maybe until recently, many of us weren't exposed to it so much on a daily basis. We didn't have to deal with it all the time, or at least we weren't aware of it, right? And now maybe more people have become aware. But yeah, but I've always been a fighter, I think. And I don't always want to be a fighter, frankly. But when I'm in a situation like the ones I just described to you, I will fight. And sometimes I win, and sometimes I only win the lesson because, I've taken a lot of risks. And when you take risks, sometimes they work out as we hope they will, and sometimes they don't.
Exactly. And I think the way you handled that shows the person you are. You're not going to give into something that is wrong and make you look like someone that's just going to bow down to that. And it also not only tarnishes you, it tarnishes your business and your reputation. So then you have to start over somewhere from scratch. But you're able to do that and keep like you said, your integrity the whole time. And that's the best thing. And the thing on corruption, I think once the explosion of social media happened, more people were able to see the corruption that exists, like you said, in Western countries, as opposed to what we believe are developing countries or things like that, where you expect it. But it's here too. It's here to stay. It's been here since the beginning of the countries. And there's always someone with their hand out for a favor to get them to do something for you. And you just got to, like you said, your eyes are open to it and you see it. And I think everyone has a better eye for it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's everywhere. We know it. We don't, we're not going to go down that rabbit hole maybe, but.
Right.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about your book, Speak Up, Stand Out, and Shine.
Yes, you can find it on Amazon as Kindle or print. And as I said earlier, it is filled with the tools and techniques and tips that I had to use myself and I still use and my clients use. when or before we go into challenging situations. They are preparation tools. If you have, for example, a difficult negotiation coming up, or a job interview, or a speaking engagement, like a podcast, could be online or offline, doesn't matter, right? Or maybe you want to negotiate a higher salary. And these are not easy situations for a lot of people. And we sometimes need some tools just to make us feel better. And some of these tools are also really, really cool to enhance your presence at the same time and to get heard and seen more easily in meetings. It's for all these situations. It's a how-to book. It's helped others and me. So
that's outstanding. So everyone get on Amazon and you can get on Kindle, so you can read it on the plane and without hurting the person next to you's ears. You can read it on your any electronic device now with Kindle, and enjoy the book and help yourself and maybe help others as you go forward. That's speak up, stand out, and shine. Regina, you said earlier when you were in Africa, you loved Africa dance. Is dancing one of your favorite passions?
It is. I love dancing, and I didn't grow up with dance because I grew up in a tiny little village. There was no African dancing. There was no Latino dancing either, which is what it all started with for me, right? And it's really, really important to me. It all started more like with partner dancing, but now I've experimented with a lot of different styles, a lot of different cultural influences. For example, when I lived in Spain, I did a little bit of flamenco, a little bit of the Sevillanas. Everybody dances there, so that I could also dance this at the parties. and also in Spain, I actually studied Argentine tango dancing. Then, of course, did much more of that in Argentina. I even also translated about 10 books on Argentine tango. Later, I developed a real love for gafieira dancing and some other Brazilian dances as well. Of course, in between, there was also always the salsa thing going on in Madrid. I did a lot of salsa dancing. And all the Latin dances that are related in a way, the bachata and whatnot. Now, what I most enjoy at this time is Haitian compa at times, and the African dances. I don't know all the African dances. There are far too many. There are many more than countries in Africa, of course. But I have done some classes in West African dances, different styles and types. Nombolo has sort of become my biggest love. In terms of partner dancing, I love Angolan samba dancing and kizomba, which is probably what more people know.
Wow. So your dancing is probably more diverse than your travel. So it's amazing. How does this influence your work?
Well, I have learned so much through dance. It's really, really true. I even wrote a few articles and blogs about this because dance has taught me so many business and leadership lessons, really. There's too much to mention everything here.
Right.
But what really has changed through dance is my posture, for example. And with it also my presence. Right. So dance has also given me a bigger understanding of how energy works, nonverbal communication, all these amazing things that we need in business all day long, and we don't really always pay attention to. Right. We think words are our most important communication tool. Yes, words are very important. Words are spells, I like to say. However, they're not the only thing. Right. So it's really, really important to understand that sometimes a passion we have can impact our work positively if we really dissect that passion and see, okay, how can that play into the work we do, right? Because, for example, as I said, dance has taught me all these lessons about leadership, about teamwork. Sometimes in a dance crew, the dancers need to really know that they can rely on each other as if their life depended on it, because it sometimes really does. Teams work similarly, right? We have to be able to depend on each other, to not depend maybe, but to really rely on each other, and to work together, to use our space like on a dance stage. We want to communicate with the other people on a dance floor. We want to be able to find our way. Yes. Dance has also taught me confidence, because I wanted to dance with the best dancers, and that sometimes required that I had to walk straight across the dance floor and ask them, and sometimes that implied getting a no. So you walk all across the dance floor, you ask somebody to dance it, no, everybody sees you. You got to be able to deal with that, right? So it's really endless, all the lessons that dance has taught me. But in general, I think passion is so important in our work, but whatever it is for everybody. Maybe it's not dance, maybe it's something else. And especially for those of us who are bold and courageous and who take risks, because it's not always easy to make it through the lows, and it's challenging to stand up for what's right as a value-driven leader, and that requires passion. Right? Without passion, it's really hard to make it through the lows. And without passion, it's hard to stand for and fight for our values. For example, as I did in the past, but there are many people who fight for their values in different ways. And we need to stand strong against corruption in all its forms, or against any maybe other daunting challenges. We have to still be able to deal with those daunting challenges, even when the going gets tough. And we need that passion to get up again when we fall, or when somebody tears us down, right? I believe also passion gives us perseverance to a certain extent.
I think it does too. And I think you just hit a home run there with every time we fall, you judge by how many times you get up, not how many times you fall.
Yeah.
So no matter how many times you walked across that dance floor and maybe they said no to you, one of those times someone said yes, and you kept going over there and saying, hey, give me a chance, dance with me, do this with me, so I can feel what it is to dance with the person who we perceive as the best, but I know I'm the best.
Exactly. Yeah. You don't see it yet, but it's there.
It's there.
It's somewhere inside, right? But so also, I believe, it's important for everyday work, right? If no passion goes into the work we do, then it shows. Because a lack of passion translates into the energy of our results, into the energy of the work we put out. And it often, when there's a lack of passion, that leads to mediocre results.
Right. And you become the person that is just doing it to do it, not to help others, or like in your case, be a coach, get out in front of people, speak and spread that word of passion, and to make them transform themselves and have their performance rise, instead of just be that moderate thing or below average, just getting by. And a lot of people get stuck in that rut and
Absolutely.
don't want to get out of it. And it's a shame, but we can push them to greatness.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe it's really, really key for our enthusiasm.
Definitely. So Regina, if you can give tips to someone that might be starting a business or is already in a business and they're at that point in their business where they don't know which way to go and if they should keep moving forward, what tips would you give them to pump themselves back up and go forward?
Well, sometimes it is time to say goodbye to something. I want to say that too, as was the case with my business in Brazil. I tried to keep it going, but without that particular business partner's name, it was just too challenging over time, because I really, at least the bigger part of the business depended on that name in a way. Now, it was a tough decision to make. Sometimes we do need to make this decision. However, at the same time, you don't want to give up too soon just because an obstacle shows up, because you might just have to make it through a plateau until you hit your next peak. And some people are actually designed to work like this and to get results in this way. I just recently added on human design as one of my, coaching methodologies, so to speak. And it is really about who we are designed to be in human design. Some of us learn differently. We move forward differently. We advance differently than others. And for some of us, the plateau peak learning is actually our best way to move. So if you hit such a plateau, don't think that everything is over. It's not over. It's only over when you decide it's over. Also, what I have found really uplifting and positive is, apart from listening to podcasts, inspiring ones like yours, is to have a mastermind. I just had a mastermind meeting with mine earlier today, and it always helps me to connect with like-minded people who might do completely different things, who might have completely different businesses, but they're like-minded in a sense that they want to make their businesses work and they want to support other business owners in their quest as well and on their path as well. So it has to be the right fit. I actually like smaller masterminds better personally than bigger ones, but it's so uplifting sometimes to get that extra support, to have somebody by your side and who has an external perspective, which is also, I think, by the way, the value of a coach, that external point of view. And you might have a mentor at your company or at the organization you work for, but it's not really the same, because sometimes it's of great value to get a completely different perspective from somebody who doesn't actually know exactly what your situation looks like.
Exactly. It's always good to have like you said, the outside set of eyes, someone looking in, because if you're inside, you're not going to see everything all the time, or you're not going to want to see everything all the time. You're going to see all the things you want to see, and you won't be able to fix things if you don't see it.
I love that. I just actually posted something earlier this week on LinkedIn. It was a small post with an image that said, sometimes you have to step outside the picture to see outside of the picture frame to see the bigger picture, something like that. I can't remember exactly the word I used because I use different wording all the time.
I'll have to look it up.
Yeah.
Regina, this has been great chatting with you. How does someone get in contact with you to maybe hire you or just pick your brain like I have for the last half hour or so here?
Yeah, thank you for offering this opportunity for people to connect with me. So first of all, before we go, I think I want to share one last thought too, because we all get these amazing growth opportunity gifts that as I call them sometimes, from the universe, from, God or source or spirit, whatever your word is, right? And as long as we see these so-called adversity situations as an opportunity, it's always going to play out in our favor. Either because we get the result we want or because we get the lesson we need. And I think that's something to remember. It's just up to us. It's up to us to really use those opportunities in a way that it serves us, right? So I wanted to just share this final thought because a lot of our conversation has been around this,
Awesome.
this theme. People can find me on my website, of course, transformyourperformance.com. I also have a LinkedIn newsletter. It is on my LinkedIn profile, Regina Huber. I have a YouTube channel at Regina Huber. And for all listeners who are committed to growing in their leadership and who want to up-level their leadership of self and others, I'm currently offering a complimentary leader up-level session. So if you want that, you can book it at transformyourperformance.com/leader up-level. It's just important that you don't put in the www, because for some of us, technology is challenging and I haven't figured out for this particular link yet. I will, but
I think you're doing great.
Okay. Well,
Regina,
thank you so much for having me on today.
And like I said earlier, thank you for still coming on, even though I kind of fumbled the ball a little bit. I got up, I made my mistake, but I stepped up and I owned it. And I appreciate you staying with me and doing this. I know the audience enjoyed it. Thanks again. I look forward to seeing what you do in the future.
Thank you.
Thanks for checking us out and being a part of the Misfit Nation. Don't forget to visit our website at themisfitnation.com. It's themisfitnation.com to catch up on all of our episodes and also to get some of that great Misfit Nation gear. As always,